So I finally finished the conversations this morning. So I finished the Swahili conversations sometime last week, and I've gotten started with the new kind of advanced material that I have. And I have to say, I'm really, really enjoying them. The stories are really good. They're really well told. And I remember like at the end of the conversations, I was kind of losing my focus because it got like really, I don't know, towards the end of material, I just get a bit, like I'm really ready to let it go. And the conversations were just kind of not that super interesting. It was kind of clear that it was made for learners. And I'm not really sure if this one's made for learners. I think it could be made for learners and it cannot be. It's kind of like a TV show, but like in a podcast format. And so I've been enjoying that a lot. And there's so many of them. And so like by the time, I don't even know like how long it'll take me to finish all of these because there's just so much. But like I'm so happy there's so much content like this. In terms of passive listening, I found this podcast that's actually really, really good. And it's kind of the content that I've been trying to find for my passive listening for native content since the start. And I've always kind of been going on and off from radio to radio, podcast to podcast, and it all tend to be news, which is fine. Like the news is okay. I never really listen to the news in Spanish. It's fine. Like I don't mind, but now I found a podcast where it's just conversations with professionals of like different walks of life, and it's really well produced. I'm really, really enjoying that. And it's so interesting to see like now, like I remember I listened to a podcast yesterday when I'm batch cooking for the week, which takes like 2.5 hours. So it's a lot of passive listening. And I could understand that podcast like really, really well. Something about the passive listening actually is that I've been forcing myself to listen to the content that I've been studying actively first before moving on to that podcast or any other native material. And that's been working absolutely fine with this with the content that I'm using for my active study, because it's just so interesting and I actually don't mind doing it. It actually increases my comprehension of the story. So when I go to the next episode of the same story, I kind of understand the chronology a bit better. I'm enjoying it a lot. And obviously with those, my comprehension is like 80 to 95% because I just studied it. Something about that as well is I think it's a struggle. I think it's always been a struggle with me at this period, trying to choose whether I should listen to the same content again or just listen to native level material. If I've studied 4 lessons in the morning, for example, and all the words that I didn't know, like I've been exposed to them for the first time or second time and I still don't really know them, I listen to them again in the podcast, and because I'm trying to follow along the story, I remember the definition straight away. So I don't know, for example, the verb kuamia, which means to move, like from one country or one place to the next. I would have read that, the definition in the morning, forgotten it, but then when I listen to it again, I'm like, okay, it was in this context, so it must mean this. And I think that makes it super, super effective. So I think listening to the same thing as you're studying actively is more effective, but you just have to make sure that you're interested in it, otherwise you can lose focus and then it's not that effective. Okay guys, so this is it. If you've seen my bonus video that I just filmed yesterday, you would have seen this already. But basically, it's like the stories. So as you can see, this is like number 1, the one that I'm going through right now, which is really interesting. It's about people who immigrate from Africa to Europe and all the kind of challenges that come with that and like why they go, etc. So right now I'm up to lesson 12. I mark them, I kind of know which one by the likes here. I like the passages that I finished just because there are some English words in there, like George walks into the restaurant, things like that. So I just kind of leave them there because it takes too long to get rid of them. But yeah, as you can see, there's so many, and there's so many different stories. So this one starts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, blah, blah, blah. And then a new one starts. So it literally, there's so many. And as you can see from the unknown word count, it's actually at my level. I don't think I've ever spoken about this, but like the perfect thing for active for me is anywhere between like 25 to 50% unknown, maybe even 60%. I remember with Spanish, I kind of went along with content that was 60% when I started the TV show just because I was interested, just because I really wanted to watch it. But this is a really comfortable spot, 36% I think. Towards the end of the Swahili conversations, it was like 12 to 14%, which was really low, too low. But these ones, as you can see, throughout, obviously, like the more I do, hopefully these will go down. But I think I'll finish this. We'll see. We'll see if I stick to that. But I do genuinely think that this resource I'll finish. If I click on this link, it shows us even more. And as you can see down here, like for example, if I just click any of these, I don't know if these ones have already been added, but I'm sure I can find ones that haven't been added. And here's all the audio, and here's all of the transcripts. And there's so many of these. So like, basically it's a fantastic resource, and it's probably going to be the one that I study actively for an extremely long time. Okay guys, We out here again, trying to get this bird down. We'll see how it goes. Like, it's not. I'm not expecting much. When you finish work, you will travel. Mtakapoliza kazi mtasafiri. Okay. Jilingo looks weird. Like, I haven't seen this for so long. Mnyama wepi wanapendwa. Wanyama. Usemi. Talk. Drama. Talk show. Figures of speech. Oh yeah, that makes sense actually. No, usually... Pinche... We'll try again next time. Something else that I've been trying to do, I found another show that I think is really good because I think it's really well produced. Like, I've just seen a little bits of it, just like literally right now. And it looks really well produced, so I think it's worth something trying to see if I could get subtitled in some way. So I looked at this website. I tried 2 websites so far, but it's so off. It's like unbelievable, basically. So if anyone knows a good website, even if I have to pay, obviously it depends on how much I have to pay. If it's like £300 per episode, then obviously not. If it's reasonable amounts of money, I don't mind transcribing like a few. Wanadamu sio wema, ndugu zangu nawaambia, ashindwae kuyasema aje kwangu nitamwambia. Mwanisema, bure bure sio mana, haidhuru, Mola atupe salama. Wanadamu sio wema, ndugu zangu nawaambia, ashindwae kuyasema aje kwangu nitamwambia. Okay guys, I know the story of this series has been Swahili doesn't have that many resources, etc. But the thing is that the content that actually does exist is extremely of like the best, highest quality. I mean, I just went from doing 135 conversations that were like really good for the level, like I would say lower B1, middle B1 conversations. And honestly guys, I feel like this is the period where like just like the mass assimilation of words. I don't know what my word count right now is, but I can guarantee you like it's been increasing a lot. I know the number that I state is inflated. I'll probably talk about that later, but it's just, I feel like the language is getting into me and things are starting to click in a way that they haven't before. And this is symbolized, I think, by how I feel about output. I feel like my potential for output has kind of just started, in the sense that when I'm just kind of going along my normal day, like I would think of things in Swahili first, just for a little bit, or like random words, or I'd kind of like be like, if there was 2 words that I didn't know what the meaning was and I was like in the process of learning them, I tried to separate them, especially if they sounded similar. And generally speaking, my mind is starting to, I feel like at the start, like especially when I was doing the courses and like the beginner material, it's like a very linear line. But I feel like now I've entered that point where it's going to become very cumulative and very fast, rapid growth, until it kind of reaches that higher B2 level, and then it's kind of like this, I would imagine, again kind of stagnates for the advanced levels where the words of lower frequency, etc. But the bottom line is that I feel like I've just entered that tip in like maybe 5 or 10% into it, and that's symbolized by like this kind of very small but very like lively urge to start speaking, to start like thinking. It's not really speaking, is more so it's kind of thinking in the language, which is extremely exciting.
Katika familia yetu hakuna mtangazaji mwingine. Yeye mwenyewe pia alikuwa kama ndo mtu ambaye ametokea tu, na tulikuwa nakumbuka tunamsikiliza redioni. Inatoka, unajua anatoka anaenda radio, alafu unashangaa baadaye unamsikia redioni. Ilikuwa inafurahisha sana. Yeah. Tunakusanyika hivi vijana wadogo tunamsikia, alafu baadaye jioni unamwona amerudi tena. Ilikuwa inatuvutia. Okay everyone, it's time for the monthly roundup. 6 months in, it's crazy. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is the money, because actually someone in the comments reminded me that I actually paid for Lingua Boost. So I paid £11.55, which brings the total to £45. Now of course the earphones that I bought was kind of like an investment in language learning as a whole and not just Swahili. So that's kind of what makes the money count a bit high, I would say, but yeah, it's okay. I mean, I'm loving the earphones, so it's chill. Okay, so the word count, and just looking at this makes me so giddy, but the word count. Last month, I left you guys at 5,797, and this month, it's been an increase of 5,146, which brings me to a total of
10,943. Now, of course, we all know that's super inflated, and I think it's more inflated for Swahili than it was for Spanish, just because the way Swahili is that in one word has many different forms, because the different noun classes, and also just the way the grammar is that loads of information is in the same word. So I know it's inflated, but of course it still is a good indicator, a good marker of progress, a good marker of knowing more words. Of course, I feel like I know more and more words, and it's even though it's not super accurate, it's super motivating just to see the number increase and increase. And you know that a good chunk of those are actually real words rather than versions of words. What that means for me, I think, is that because when I started outputting for Spanish with my tutors, I think I was at 20,000 words. For Swahili, I think it might be more than that, maybe 25, maybe closer to 30,000 words. So I still have a long way to go. But it's just nice. It's nice to see that there's some progress, there's some increase in comprehension, there's some increase in words. It's nice to quantify the way I feel about the content that I'm consuming. Okay, so for passive, last month was 90 hours and 7 minutes. And this month I add 33 hours and 48 minutes, which brings it to 123 hours and 55 minutes. Now, that's quite an increase from last month, because I remember in the last video I did say that there was some time that I could have used, that I could be using, that I wasn't using. And just general speaking about passive listening, I always keep my earphones with me now. And like when I'm having breakfast, I'd listen. When I'm heating up my food, I'd listen. When I'm just doing chores throughout the day, when my earphones are just in my pocket, it's so much easier to just whip it out and get some Swahili passive listening in, get some input in. And I found that just by finding those little pockets of time throughout my day, because I know we're all busy, so we don't have time to sit down and listen to Swahili, to whatever language we're learning for hours on end. I found that just by adding it in little pockets throughout the day, I've been able to get half an hour of passive listening without pretty much doing anything, without planning it at all. So that's been really good. That's really increased it. Another thing is that every single day I have 20 to 30 minutes of kind of high quality passive time, which is basically I can actually focus quite a lot on what's being said, which has helped I think with the comprehension a lot. Over the past week I've been listening to a podcast episode, and the podcast episode I could understand around 20 to 30% of it, and then today I listened to one and I could understand around 60 to 80% of it, and I could follow it along much better. And so it's really hit and miss, I think, in this phase where it's just it kind of depends on what they're talking about, it depends on your concentration level. But this whole kind of period I am right now, having finished the analytical phase, it's such a long journey. And I feel like how I felt with Spanish at this time, where, yes, the word count's increasing rapidly. I'm listening and I'm understanding more, but there's no real exact milestones. I'm just kind of consuming and seeing what's happening. We'll see. Last month, the active was at 106 hours and 56 minutes. This month, I added 17 hours and 16 minutes, making it 124 hours and 12 minutes. So with active, I've been doing basically 36 minutes every single day, every single morning, going through 3 of the articles of the content. So I'm going to continue doing that for a while. I don't actually have more time to add to active. 36 minutes is pretty much the max that I could put into it daily right now. So that's that. But I do think that during the next month, I might be able to increase that to doubling it for just 1 week though, because 1 week you have a holiday. So I'll probably try to use that 1 week. I don't know whether to look here or into the camera. And of course, I'm going to try to take advantage of all the holidays. I did that a lot with Spanish last year, where every single holiday we had, we have less holidays this year, but every single holiday we had, I always doubled it. So whatever it was just double. I had 2 sessions, one in the morning, one in the evening. Okay, so generally speaking, it's extremely exciting. We're at 6 months. In terms of the output, oh yeah, I spoke about the output before, didn't I? This urge to speak is slowly coming up, but very slowly. I feel like this urge to speak, right now it's at not that high, right? It's at 5%, something like that. But I feel the more input I do, especially towards the end of this B2, where I can watch a TV show or a YouTube video or whatever, and have 95 minimum % comprehension, that output potential, that output feeling, that urge to speak, skyrockets, in my opinion. In my experience from Spanish, that's kind of what's happened to me. And so I can't wait for that to happen in Swahili, because there is still some parts of Swahili. There's actually quite a bit of parts of Swahili where I still feel what does this mean? How do they use this word? This structure is just, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's structures that just seem weird to me and they sound still quite alien, and I still don't understand how it's used. Or there's some words that I don't actually know how they're used. You know, they're using contexts that are a bit different. That being said, there are loads of structures and words that I remember saying to myself, "This is weird. I can't wrap my head around this," and that now they're actually very, very, very like, you know, normal, and I'm comfortable with them, and I've kind of just gotten used to them, which is quite nice to see as well. So like that gives me hope for the structures and the words that I still don't really know how they're used. That gives me hope that like hopefully one day, with more input, I'd be able to see them. Because actually, like when you're there reading it, you're just like, oh, I don't know what they meant by that, or I don't know how they express this idea. It's very hard for you to have that kind of long-term perspective of like, oh no, one day, you know, it'll be fine, just keep doing it. But you have to trust the process. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Let me know how you guys fit passive listening into your time. Active is like active, right? Like you dedicate some time to it and you do it. But passive, I think, is really interesting because different people do different things, of course, and so different opportunities to kind of put that input and get as much passive listening as possible. Thank you for watching, and see you.